So today we are going to talk about my favorite topic, because of which permissionless creator started, which is why you should build content projects. So usually, whenever my friends or anybody who wants to create content come to me for advice on how do I start creating content, I usually try to ask them, do you have any idea or topic in mind that you want to create your content on? And quite often, they either have too many ideas or they have no idea. Both are a problem. When you have too many ideas, it is very difficult to decide what exactly you want to create a content about. Because if you have too many interests, you keep jumping from one idea to another, and you never settle and you never start. When you have no idea, but you still want to create content, it is usually because your motivation of creating content is either to build an audience, become famous, get a lot of subscribers, make sure a lot of people know you and stuff like that. Both of them will stop you from starting. And that is what we are going to solve today. So I'll tell you what exactly is the problem in the way content is created today. The first issue with the way content is created is, somebody has an idea about a topic, they write a blog post or make a video, and then they are trying to, they just publish it. And that's it. And then they are trying to figure out what is the next content idea I should work on. And they keep jumping from one content idea to another. They're putting a lot of efforts. Especially this happens with a lot of Instagram reel makers, where they are jumping from one idea to the next, and always trying to find what is going to go viral next. But virality does not necessarily create a lot of value for you when you're creating content. You might gain a lot of followers, but if you see today, a lot of influencers and people who have 100,000 followers are not getting even $100 to post a reel. There are many people like that, and the reason for that is because when they started, they did not start with a thoughtful approach towards creating content. So let's look at this entire issue from two angles. One is creating individual isolated content pieces based on ideas that come to your mind, which might be around same theme or which might be random, versus building a content project, which is like a container of a lot of ideas which are related to each other. And when you start producing those pieces of content, they start connecting with each other and they create an asset for you by the end of the entire process. So I'll first explain what is a content project, how it is different from publishing individual content pieces, and what happens when you start building a content project instead of individual content pieces. So a content project is anything that you produce, or it could be a single piece of content, or it could be a series of content, or a collection of content, but it has a name to it. For example, this project is called as permissionless creator. So this is a content project that I am building. A content project is just a container of all the ideas that you're going to convey to your audience. So as against what creators do today, which is with, let's say, either it is a YouTuber, or it is an Instagrammer, or a LinkedIn post writer, or something like that. They come up with interesting ideas, they post it, but none of those, like if you look at the last 100 videos or posts, they don't have a common theme, or even if they have a common theme, they don't have a way to package all of it inside a single container. When you're building a content project, you can name it. The most simple way to understand if you are building a content project is, have you named a project, versus are you just publishing content without naming something that is larger than that single piece of content. So that is the first most obvious feature of a content project, which is you name a project. Okay, why do you need to name a project? It is because, let's say you are following a creator who is making a bunch of amazing videos and you're getting a lot of value, and if you want to explain what this creator does to your friend, if the creator is not building a content project that has a name to it, you will have to use 2 to 3 sentences to explain what this creator is doing. But if you were to explain to your friends what I am building right now, you would say this guy is building something called as a permissionless creator. Okay. At least you have created an anchor or a memory hook so that your audience can use that term to tell other people what you are trying to build. Okay. So in the mind of the audience, it becomes very clear. This guy is actually building something. He's building an asset, or she is building an asset. And that is why you need to name that project. This is the most important part that most people miss out. Everybody just starts jumping onto creating a content piece one after the other without trying to package it inside a project. And that is the key to make your efforts from 1x to 10x. Okay. When you're trying to package all of this under a project, people, you have subconsciously started building an asset, and every single video transfers the reputation that you have built into the asset that you are building. I'll give you a very simple example of my own project that I built before Permissionless Creator, and the name is Persuasive Visual Patterns. And it was a project about finding visual patterns in advertising that lead you to buy products, or lead consumers to buy products. There were about 30 patterns that I identified, so I could have just published 30 different blog posts and be done with it. But what I did was, I said I'm writing this book and I'm building this library of visual patterns, and this is the newsletter through which I'm going to publish every single pattern without holding anything back. And if you want access to all these patterns, subscribe to this newsletter, Persuasive Visual Patterns, and you will keep getting every single week, you will keep getting one pattern. And by the end of it, you will get a book because you were part of this list. Now, another creator might just publish and forget about it. But because I did this, a lot of things happened. First of all, I built an email list of about 1,500 people within a year, which is not a lot, I know. But especially for this project itself, I got about 1,500 people interested. The second is I got invited in one of India's biggest design conferences to deliver a talk on the concept of visual patterns that I was working on. And I got exposure to one of the best designers in the country. Now, this wouldn't happen if I did not have a memory anchor for the person who invited me, right, for this talk. I was able to attract a lot of opportunities in terms of speaking on podcasts with a few people who are interested to understand the idea of patterns. I made a lot of friends who were interested in these kind of ideas that I was in. So I had so many different levels of benefits just because I packaged the same efforts into a project. I would have required the exact same amount of time to produce those blog posts and research for those patterns. But the outcome was 10x higher because I could build an asset out of it instead of just producing a piece of content, publishing it, and forgetting about it, right? So the whole idea behind building a content project is that you're building a content piece as if it is a product that is solving a problem or helping your audience overcome an obstacle. That is the whole mindset, that if you keep that, you have a timeless piece or a timeless intellectual property that you own. You potentially have a business that you can build on top of it, because now you also have a name that you are kind of giving to that project that you're building. Eventually, you can convert your content project into a real business. And there are a lot of people who have done it. Take Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He actually wrote a series of blog posts and then compiled all of that into an asset, which was the book. And then and he had the intent of writing the book all along. It was not like he randomly published the blogs and then thought, oh, this might be a cool idea to make a book out of it. No, he already had the idea of a book and he started publishing, and that became a book. Same was the case with James Clear. He wrote Atomic Habits, which was a series of tweets and blogs that he compiled into a book. Same happened with Naval Ravikant, where there is a book called as The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, in which he wrote his thoughts on how to become rich. He started with a tweet thread. He converted that into a podcast where he expanded every single tweet more, and then he converted all of that into a book. The founders of Basecamp, Jason Fried and DHH. They wrote Rework exactly in this way. They wrote a series of blog posts, compiled that into a book, and published it as Rework. It's an amazing, brilliant book if you want to learn how to build remote teams. So these were a few examples. Okay. So what happens when you are trying to do this? When you are trying to publish the work of your content project, whether it is a book at the end of it or it is just a newsletter or anything for that matter, you're getting real-time feedback from your audience, and your audience is helping you polish your message even much more sharper, and you are able to build something that people actually resonate with and they are here for. As you start publishing your pieces of content, your audience will also start telling you what are the gaps in their knowledge, and you can also solve those problems through your content. And eventually you come up with a whole collection of videos, blog posts, or whatever it is, which is successfully solving problems of your audiences because they told you they have the problem, and you have ended up building something that is highly valuable, something that can be converted into an asset, something where you can claim your name, because if you name it, you claim it, right? So if I name permissionless creator, I can claim this whole idea of becoming permissionless or living a permissionless life through creating content. That is another example. The other reason for this is you are forced to focus on a collection of ideas that fall into a certain project. So when I wrote Visual Patterns, the book of Persuasive Visual Patterns, I was forced to focus only on writing about visual patterns that will convert a visitor into a customer. That's all. Once I was done with it, I could package it, I could wrap it up and move on to the next project, which is Permissionless Creator. For someone like me who is so interested in so many ideas all the time, and in fact, I might be getting like 10 ideas every single day on an interesting project to build, it helps to create projects. Basically, a project becomes like a forcing function for you to create a boundary around or a constraint around what is inside this project and what is outside this project. So I don't have to get rid of my other ideas and, say that, no, I just need to focus on this. I can have those ideas, but I can put them in other buckets of other projects while focusing on the project that I'm executing right now. And that happens even today. I have 10 other projects after this I have in mind that I would love to build, right? The other reason for that is when you build one project and you keep building such projects over time, you have an opportunity to keep experimenting until you nail it or until you find one project that is going to give you the freedom that you want, right? And that is why the goal is to build a portfolio of these projects and not just stick to one project. So that is why, but when you're creating just a random one idea at a time content piece, it is an endless journey. It doesn't end. And that is why you feel a burnout. That is why we see so many YouTubers getting burnt out, because they are just producing content, but they are not packaging that inside an asset which can be published, which can be timeless, and which can stay around even after they have stopped producing content. So today, my book is published on Amazon and people can go through it anytime they want. So that is the reason when you start building a portfolio of projects, you eventually find something that resonates so deeply with you that it catapults you or pushes you towards the freedom that you are looking for. Especially if you are a professional, you are an expert who really has a lot to share with the world, but you are not able to find a way out of it. Your current situation where maybe you're getting highly paid and it's a situation where you can't get out, but you also can't do something very highly risky, right? Another reason for building content projects is it is an alternative to building a personal brand. Now, for someone like me, it is very difficult to box myself inside a certain identity. I can't call myself that as only a filmmaker. I have professionally done cinematography, video editing, direction, screenplay writing, and marketing. I have done performance marketing, content writing, web development, right? So I can't box myself in any one of these identity, because the stuff that I can do is even much more than these labels. So when I'm trying to build these individual projects, all the projects together will eventually start helping shape my identity, or my audience can figure out what I am really into after looking at a bunch of projects that I'm building. And this whole idea of, I think it is too windy. I just try to protect the mic. Yeah, I hope this cancels out some of the wind. Sorry. So, this whole idea of personal brand is very limiting for me personally, because whenever I think how should I position myself, I get into analysis paralysis and I'm not able to decide what exactly am I supposed to stand for. But when I think, okay, these are all my different interests, these are all the different kinds of projects I can build, and this is the project that I can start today, because that is going to help me go closer to my goal, whatever the goal in my life is right now, as quickly as possible. And that is how I start building projects. So that way I may have built about 10 to 15 projects so far. And I also look at the companies I'm building as a project, and the movie I made as a project. Everything is a project. Nothing. I don't have a career. I'm just building projects one after the other. That's how I look at my life, or my work, or professional life in general. The other reason to build a content project is the difference between the proof of work and proof of experience. Now, there are a lot of people in the market who have a work experience of 15 years, 20 years doing like super amazing work. They have leadership roles, but all of that is visible only on a resume. Nothing is visible in the real world out there. Like, they have not produced content that adds value to their community. And but if you are that kind of person who decides to start writing and start producing and publishing content to add value to your community, you have the proof of work, not just a proof of experience. And especially if you're not at all experienced in the field that you want to enter, and someone who is in the position to hire, and if they have an option between you, who has the proof of work along with proof of experience, and somebody else who only has a strong resume, which is just the proof of experience and not enough proof of work, they are going to choose you, even if they have much more experience. An amazing example of this is Arindam Paul. He looks after the growth of Atomberg. It's an electronic fan company, and he produces and publishes one of the most amazing content pieces around how to build a D2C brand or a consumer brand in India. And so that is an example of how building such powerful content through your projects makes you stand apart, makes you stand out in the industry that you are in. Another huge advantage of building a content project is when you are just publishing individual content pieces on your profile, you can't allow others to participate in your efforts. But let's say you're building a content project, like this is a content project permissionless creator. I can start, first of all, I can enroll other people, I can get other people to be a part of my project and allow them to contribute as well to this project. I can build a community around it. For example, we have a WhatsApp group where we have a lot of experts who want to become creators or professionals who want to become creators. So that is where it is much more easier to invite other people to be a part of what you're building and make it much more powerful. One example is when I made my movie One Last Question. That movie was a content project. I needed music directors, sound designers, video editors, producers. I crowdfunded that movie. About 163 people came together to give me the money for making this movie. And it was one of the most transforming experiences for me in terms of how powerful building a project is compared to just doing something solo or doing something just as individual content piece, because you're just devaluing your own efforts by not packaging your content inside a project, or you can call a product as well, for that matter. So that is another one. I think the wind is gone, so I'll just continue with this. Another important part of building a content project is you also don't burn out when you're building a content project, because usually every project has a beginning and an end. You can try out something. If it works, when something works, you already get a lot of energy to continue doing it. But if it is not working, you can stop it and move on to a next project. And that avoids the burnout, because the next project is of course going to be something that you feel could be the right one in that moment. And even if that doesn't work, you have the freedom to shut it down and move on to the next project. Of course, make sure that when you're building a project, experiment, try to find different approaches to make it work. And after making all those efforts, it's not working, you have the freedom to stop building it and build something else. So the beautiful thing about this is your work does not get attached to your identity. So stopping and quitting does not become a matter of ego, it becomes a matter of practicality, where you are just stopping one project and moving on to the next project just because the previous project did not work. Because you learned something about your audience, and where your audience might want something else, not what you thought they might want, which is a great thing because that's progress. So that is why you can build these projects that are limited in time, and so you don't have to burn out. Yeah. The overall lifetime value of a content project is extremely long. So take example of a book written by an architect called as Christopher Alexander, where he wrote this book called as A Pattern Language, which inspired me to build my previous project. Now this book was written in 1970s, and I read that book in 2020. So imagine the value of that book, that value the book created almost 50 years later. Do you think a social media post on Facebook or Reddit or any of these social media sites is going to create impact 50 years later? Forget about 50 years later, it does not even create impact 1 week from now. And that is why you should package your content inside a content project, because the lifetime value of that content extends even beyond your own life. And that is another reason to do it. And to do that, the fun part is to do that you don't have any extra effort. All you have to do is just name it and claim it. That's all. It's very easy. Yeah. So let's say you have created a project and there are about 10 pieces of content you're going to produce inside it. When you produce and publish your first piece of content and move on to the second one, you are actually building on top of the first piece that you have created. So there is a compounding effect happening. With every single piece of content, you are carrying forward the reputation that you have built with the previous pieces of content. And when you're building projects, you're carrying forward the reputation that you have built with your previous project to the next project. I'm back to my hometown in Pune, and I had extremely bad cold when I was recording this video back there. And the battery died and the video stopped recording. So I'm just continuing that video here. And I was talking about how when you build projects back to back, they compound over time. The idea is that whatever audience you build in the previous project, as long as they are under the same theme and same topic, they start bringing more and more audience. And different audiences start bringing, different kinds of interests. And that leads to a much more wholesome portfolio of projects. And you don't have to work from scratch again. But I think I have repeated the same thing many times in this video now. And I hope you get the idea of why building content projects is so much better than building individual content pieces. Thank you for watching this video. And if you love this video, make sure you comment and you tell me what exactly would you like to know about creating content. Do you have any problems that you face while creating content? How can I help you? And I would love to help you. You can also join our WhatsApp group. If you want to, there is a link in the description to join the WhatsApp group. Do come in and I'm happy to help you out. Thank you for watching.